If you ever buy a cell phone in Japan, rest assured that you can never turn off its shutter sound. For some people, this is an annoyance, but it can be life-changing for others. It turns out that this is because of policy concerns, so people cannot be taking pictures they should be taking. Japan has plenty of cases where people take unwanted pictures of others. What's even more alarming is that last year, the number of Japan was 1.58 million, twice as much as the number of births. This means it has outpaced births in Japan, and a phenomenon that was first coined in Japan.
Konnichiwa minasan, kyo desu. The dark side of Japan. This is from the YouTuber Mood Side. Since I can remember from the early 2010s, I remember when I used to research about Japan, a lot of people had a lot of positive things to say about Japan. How Japanese people are kind, Japan is clean, the food is amazing, the culture is all about order and looking after each other. Sometimes it's to the point of which people make Japan seem like a fantasy land, to which a lot of Westerners who are interested in Japan, they would think that Japan is this place that they can escape all their problems, and Japan is some kind of utopia. Obviously, we know that this is not true, and I think currently there is a trend, or it seems like there's starting to be a trend in which a lot of people are exposing the dark sides of Japanese culture, which would make sense because if there's such an overly abundant view of Japan as this positive place, eventually you would start to see people making content about how terrible a place Japan could be. So I'm excited to see what this video is about, but before that, guys, just make sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel.
Why are all mobile phones in Japan required to have a shutter sound? Or why are people sleeping literally everywhere? These things in Japan would send many people into a coma. This is the dark side of Japan.
Okay.
Before Japan was known for its innovation and technology, it was already a frontrunner. More than 100 years ago, while most areas in the world were being possessed mainly by Western powers, Japan managed to establish a constitutional government earlier than any other country in Asia and preserved its independence until now. This is all thanks to the Meiji Restoration, which put an end to the feudal government. Before that, there were no railroads or even rickshaws. But the Restoration brought forward a new and modern Japan, which was the foundation of the Japan we know and love today. It was all going well until World War II, when Japan experienced a loss. The growth in the GDP was reversed in a matter of a few years. Japan's economy was back to square one at the end of 1945, erasing almost all of the gains the country had made. True to form, this nation of grit rose from the ashes, and by 1956, its GDP had overtaken its pre-war level in 1940. It was all because of their policy that supports industrialization, ease of migration, and modernization in general. They shifted labor focus from the low-productivity agriculture sector to the non-agricultural sector. They also focused more on education and research to accelerate innovation. All these policy changes have made Japan a modern nation that still holds to its cultural background. No matter how modern Japan is, there's one little annoying detail to their cell phones you might have noticed. All their cell phones will have a shutter sound you cannot turn off. If you ever buy a cell phone in Japan, rest assured that you can never turn off its shutter sound. For some people, this is an annoyance, but it can be life-changing for others. It turns out that this is because of policy concerns, so people cannot be taking pictures they should be taking. Japan has plenty of cases where people take unwanted pictures of others. The Japanese police saw a huge rise in camera voyeurism, a 60% rise from 2007 to 2016.
Ouch.
That's why this law was made, to protect vulnerable people. Even Apple agreed to customize the cell phones that they ship to Japan. So although this might seem a little annoying to you, it made with good intentions and the purpose is admirable. Japan has come a long way since its dark days after World War II. It is now the third largest economy in the world, and it has a major role in the international community. One of its main focuses is manufacturing, which has been the crowning glory of Japan's economic growth. They're a leader in plenty of industries: electrical appliances, automobiles, machines, and even chemicals. Unfortunately, not everyone in Japan is enjoying this economic prosperity. Although it is in better standing than the US and UK, Japan still has the second highest poverty rate among the G7 nations and the 9th highest among OECD countries. The average Japanese household wealth fell by 3.5% from 2014 to 2019. While the wealthiest have seen an increase in their wealth, widening the economic gap, maybe this is why most people in Japan aren't eager to settle down, get married, and have children. The number of births in Japan has been halved in the past 40 years. The number of births in 2022 was just 799,728, which is almost half of the recorded 1.5 million births in 1982. What's even more alarming is that last year, the number of births in Japan was 1.58 million, twice as much as the number of births. This means it has outpaced births in Japan, and the country is at a risk of losing population and human resource scarcity. This is because of the high cost of living, limited space, and lack of childcare support. Young people in Japan are increasingly pessimistic about the future, and they're focused more on work to survive in this expensive country, which is probably why they have a toxic work culture called karoshi. Karoshi itself means working yourself to death, a phenomenon that was first coined in Japan. Most of the victims worked long hours, up to 60 to 70 hours per week the time before their deaths. More often than not, they will die due to bodily function failures. The most common causes are heart failure, stroke. This culture of overworking yourself to your limit is also why you might see another phenomenon that you don't often see in other countries. Napping in trains without a care in the world. Going into trains after office hours on a weekday, and you'll find people sleeping from exhaustion. This is because of the high-pressure, high-workload jobs. They don't have much time for themselves, let alone rest. People in Japan stay long hours at work. They start their day at 6 or 7 a.m. and leave the office after 8 or 9 p.m. This could get even later. This is mainly because of the society's expectations toward their workforce. Staying at work longer or arriving earlier shows that you have devotion and go above and beyond. And the train is not the only place where it's acceptable to nap in Japan. Napping at the office is also acceptable and encouraged. They call it inemuri, or sleeping on the job. But it's not because of laziness or spare time. Sleeping in the office shows that you worked yourself to exhaustion and is a sign that you have given your all to the company. It's not just the office. People also nap in department stores, cafes, restaurants, or even on a busy city sidewalk. It turns out it's a cultural practice that's been going on for at least 1,000 years in Japan. This napping practice can even elevate your social reputation. People who sleep during social events are frowned upon in other parts of the world, but not in Japan. This just means that you care so much about your friends and family, you still show up when you're so exhausted from work. So the next time you're in Japan and feeling exhausted, feel free to practice inemuri. But remember one specific unwritten rule of inemuri. Sleep compactly without violating spatial norms. Tuck your legs, don't sprawl across a few seats, and pick your spot wisely. Another unique Japanese site that's closely related to inemuri and karoshi is the Shibuya meltdown. When things have gone too stressful, a mere nap won't do. So people will enact the Shibuya meltdown after their tough day at work. Shibuya refers to a ward in Tokyo, where you'll find bars and restaurants that are open until late at night. That's why most Japanese workers will go there after a brutal day at work, relieving themselves from the pressure of being a corporate worker or salaryman. A Shibuya meltdown typically has 3 acts. The first act is when they will drink sake or a beer until they're drunk. Then the second act is when the workers perform long monologues filled with work complaints and other things work-related. Then the third and final act is when they pass out entirely in an inappropriate place for sleeping. You can say that a Shibuya meltdown is the extreme version of inemuri that's fueled by alcohol. If you are ever in Shibuya, try to pay close attention and spot the Shibuya meltdown, or you can even offer them help to get them home safely. Imagine you're in a movie theater and the show is finished. Do you immediately stand up and leave or stay to watch the end credits? For most of the entire world, except for the several superhero movies, people usually stand up and go about their day after the story finishes. But not in Japan. They will sit through the entire rolling credits of a movie. The reasons they stay vary, From looking out for post-credit movies to taking the time to think about important scenes in the movie, or looking for familiar names in the credits. But the most prominent one is to pay respect to the people who have worked hard to make this movie. So the next time you just finished a movie, spare some time and stick around to wait for the credits to stop rolling. This will show that you're a real movie fan and that you acknowledge that each member of the crew is important, not just the actors. One more really interesting fact about Japan is its fascination with canned food. You might have heard of canned sardines or canned beef, but Japan takes these preserved foods to another level. This could have plenty to do with their lifestyle as well. Japanese are sometimes so busy they don't have time to cook a meal from scratch. Canned foods are an easy way for them to still get a good meal. That's why they're everywhere. You can even get them from a vending machine. There's bread, yakitori, and curry, and they even have luxury high-end canned foods like red king crab legs topped with gold leaf. Your imagination's the limit when it comes to Japanese canned foods, and you're bound to find one when you go and visit the country. So be adventurous and try something you haven't next time. Japan's unique habits offer a fascinating glimpse into the country's culture and history. But one thing can be seen as a common thread: the respect and gratitude for life and each other.
There's a lot of things that could be said. One thing I will say, this YouTuber has a series in which he covers the dark side of a lot of countries. So he's not just pointing out Japan, but I think some points. Here's my response. There's so much things that I can say about this video. There's a lot of things I do see that Japan has problems culturally. I would say the main thing that I think would solve a lot of Japan's problem is that you have to do things that actually help Japanese people, that actually promote Japanese culture, that make Japanese live richer lives, than just having the look of something. In my personal view as an outsider looking in, I think a healthy work culture in which Japanese work hard but yet have time for their own personal lives, which they can go home, spend time with their families, or start a family. I think it's good to have a good work ethic and to do your job with as much passion and excellence as possible. But I think you should do things that actually help Japanese people, not give the appearance of like, oh, you're working hard, so that's why you're sleeping. I think it's better to say, okay, look at the work I completed. Has my work contributed to the company or the cause, that you can see viably that the company has improved because of my work, instead of like just me sleeping and like, oh, you must be working hard because you're sleeping so much. I just think for any society, American, Japanese, whatever, I think we should always look at our culture, see what things are holding us back from prospering, and change those. That's ultimately what I would say. I think it's better to actually have good things going on than the actual, just the appearance of it. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. So if you guys liked the video, please smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. Also hit that bell as well to get notified whenever we post a video. Honto, arigatou gozaimasu. Mina, kiyo tsukete. じゃあね。